Crisis, chaos, collapse. That's the story of Manchester United's season so far. A sluggish start in the league, knocked out of the Carabao Cup by Grimsby Town, injuries piling up, a manager refusing to change, and it's not like they didn't spend. Once again, United poured huge money into the transfer market. Once again, fans dared to believe. There were glimpses of progress in the summer, fresh faces, renewed optimism, the idea that maybe this time would be different. But as soon as the season began, it all came crashing down. Amorim's stubborn tactics, an injury crisis stripping the squad bare, a dressing room that looks disconnected, and behind it all, the financial consequences of failure looming larger with every defeat. Manchester United spent big, but instead of competing, they're collapsing. For fans, the same painful question hangs heavy in the air.
This is a living nightmare.
What the hell is going on at Manchester United? The summer window was supposed to be a statement. United didn't just spend, they targeted crucial positions. Matheus Cunha, Bryan Mbeumo, and Benjamin Šeško all brought in to add firepower up front after a disappointing campaign from Garnacho and Rasmus Højlund. Senne Lammens came in between the sticks to replace Andre Onana, a position and a player that had become Manchester United's Achilles heel. For a moment, it looked like progress. New faces, new energy, and perhaps, finally, a plan. But there was one glaring hole left unfilled: defensive midfield. Casemiro is in the twilight of his career, his legs no longer able to dominate games as they once did. Manuel Ugarte was supposed to be the answer, but each time he steps onto the pitch, he looks worse, tentative, out of rhythm, and completely out of place. United explored a move for Brighton's Carlos Baleba, but by the time they came calling, it was too late. A £104 million price tag made it impossible. And so, just weeks later, the cracks began to show. Fast forward a month, and the reality couldn't be harsher. The goals aren't flowing, the defense isn't holding, and in the Carabao Cup, the competition that could have offered momentum, United were humiliated by Grimsby Town. A club worth billions, humbled by a side worth millions. The optimism of summer feels like a distant memory. Instead of progress, United look lethargic, disconnected, like individuals playing their own games, not a team fighting for each other. United promised to step forward, but right now, all they've delivered is the same old stumble, back into the same old patterns. At the center of it all stands Rúben Amorim, brought in to modernize Manchester United, hailed as one of Europe's brightest tactical minds. But instead of progress, he stood out for all the wrong reasons. His tactics were unfamiliar to United, but it's his stubbornness that defines him. He refused to start Benjamin Šeško, despite the club investing £66 million to bring him in as their future striker. Instead, Šeško watched from the bench while United struggled to score. In goal, the confusion was even worse. Altay Bayındır and Andre Onana rotated back and forth, each seemingly producing one catastrophic mistake per game. A shocking reality for a club of United's stature, while summer signing Senne Lammens sat untouched on the bench. And in midfield, the frustration grows louder. Kobbie Mainoo, one of England's finest young talents, a player praised for his composure and vision, has been left rotting on the bench. While United's midfield gets dismantled game after game, Amorim refuses to trust the one player who could make a difference. The attacking line is no better. Disjointed, disconnected, reliant on flashes of individual brilliance rather than tactical discipline or game management. Substitutions only add to the chaos, like sending on centre-backs when chasing a goal in the dying minutes. Even his handling of Bruno Fernandes, one of the world's best creative playmakers, raised eyebrows. Amorim shifted him deeper into midfield, blunting United's most consistent source of creativity. And then there's the attitude. It's one thing for a manager to express frustration, but Amorim's public comments crossed the line, admitting sometimes he hates his players, sometimes he loves them, admitting he sometimes wants to quit, even refusing to watch the penalty shootout against Grimsby. These aren't signs of a leader in control, they're the signs of a manager losing sight of his team. And increasingly, a team losing sight of their manager. And then came the whispers. Reports began leaking from the dressing room, half the squad growing impatient with Amorim's stubbornness, while the senior leaders desperately tried to hold the group together, urging patience and trust in their manager. But their words haven't translated into actions. On the pitch, the commitment looks absent, players making silly mistakes. Club captain Bruno Fernandes throwing tantrums every time a pass breaks down or a decision goes against him. Behavior that, instead of inspiring, only frustrates fans and teammates alike. Downing tools. It's the phrase that has haunted Manchester United in the post-Ferguson era. Mourinho, Solskjær, Ten Hag, each saw their reign collapse under a squad that stopped believing. And now, under Amorim, the body language feels eerily familiar. For United fans, this phrase has become more recognizable than victory. And when that pattern emerges, we all know what comes next, the inevitable. Managers are always easier to replace than the whole squad. But maybe that's the problem. Maybe the issue doesn't lie with Amorim, or with Mourinho, or with Ten Hag before him. Maybe it lies with the players who have survived every sacking. A group that has outlasted philosophies, outlasted managers, and cultivated a culture where toxicity outlives progress. United don't just have a manager problem, they have a dressing room problem, one that money alone cannot solve. Of course, it hasn't helped that United's luck has been brutal. Matheus Cunha and Mason Mount both picked up injuries just a few games into the season, right when Amorim needed them most. But these setbacks raise serious questions. Cunha may be a new face, but Mason Mount has spent more time in the medical room than on the pitch since arriving at Old Trafford. At what point does this stop being bad luck and start being negligence? Serious doubts are being raised about United's medical department, but so too is their recruitment team. Did they really do the research before committing millions to players whose fitness can't be trusted? And once those injuries hit, the cracks in squad depth became impossible to ignore. Yes, this is Amorim's first full summer in charge, and yes, a rebuild takes time, but the reality is damning. In midfield, the backups are either aging veterans or raw, inexperienced youngsters. Up front, Benjamin Šeško has no proven alternative, just Chido Obi Martin, a highly rated teenager but still miles away from being Premier League ready. United's budget may be stretched, their squad trimmed for the limited competitions they're playing this season, but that is no excuse for a club of this stature. Injuries are part of football. Depth is what separates the best from the rest. And the truth is, Manchester United are nowhere near being contenders. In fact, they can consider themselves fortunate to have even survived last season after finishing 15th. Yet somehow, the hierarchy seems blind to reality. Co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe has publicly claimed this squad is good enough to qualify for the Champions League, and that Amorim's job security will only be seriously questioned if United fall out of the European race. It's a delusional, irresponsible take from the very top, because if this is truly the standard, then Manchester United's problems run far deeper than injuries or form. They run straight into the boardroom. And when Manchester United fail, it doesn't just hurt on the pitch, it bleeds into the balance sheet. This is a club that has already burned millions on failed resets. Sacking Erik Ten Hag and his staff cost £10.4 million. Go back further and you'll find the same story with Ole Gunnar Solskjær, with Jose Mourinho before him, and the carousel of managers that have turned into a revolving bill. At Old Trafford, failure isn't just emotional, it's financial. Exiting competitions early means lost revenue. Falling short in the league risks Champions League qualification and the riches that come with it. And if Amorim goes, the payout will be massive. His contract, his staff, and the cost of yet another rebuild. But here's the bigger picture. Manchester United recorded the highest revenues in the club's history last season and still posted a 6th consecutive annual loss. How? A restructuring program that saw up to 450 job cuts, a failure to qualify for the Champions League, a wage bill slashed to £313.2 million, its lowest level since 2019-20. Yet despite cutting costs, United's exceptional expenses hit £36.6 million, almost entirely from sacking Ten Hag and his staff and restructuring operations across the club. Earlier this year, Sir Jim Ratcliffe himself admitted that United were at risk of running out of money by Christmas if those cuts weren't made, a claim reported by The Athletic. This is Manchester United, the biggest club in England, one of the wealthiest brands in global sport, operating like a company on the brink, burning through managers, burning through money, and burning through the patience of their fans.
So what happens now?
Two paths. Either Rúben Amorim adapts, proves he can bend his philosophy and wins the dressing room back, or United do what they've done so many times before, sack the manager, rip it up, and start again. Jose Mourinho once said, "There are coaches who try things that don't work and fail, but they say, 'I died with my idea.' If you die with your idea, you're stupid." Strong words, as expected, from the special one, but the point still stands. Tactical and managerial flexibility is essential to survive in the toughest league in the world. Mourinho knew what it took to get to the very top of English football, and this is the challenge facing Amorim. Because this isn't just about football, it's about perspective. Change and you float. Stay stubborn and you sink. For the players, the environment matters more than people realize. A toxic dressing room doesn't just drain belief, it spreads. New signings risk falling into the same cycle, throwing fits, downing tools, and becoming part of the problem instead of the solution. A cultural reset is needed. The dead leaves must be pruned so the new ones can flourish. Amorim might not be the right man for the job, but how long can United afford another sacking? In modern football, there's no such thing as patience without results. United fans have seen over a decade of darkness since Ferguson, and they are far more sensitive to failure than most clubs. Amorim himself admitted when he took the job, patience must be earned by winning games. Right now, it's not about showing how clever or special your tactics are. It's about winning, whatever it takes. Because talk is cheap. And for fans who live and breathe this club, hearing their players sit in front of a camera after another defeat, claiming they're more disappointed than the fans themselves, isn't just hollow. It's insulting. Amorim and this squad don't need more words. They need wins. Right now, Manchester United stand at a crossroads. The talent is there, the money has been spent. But the culture, the leadership, the belief, that's still missing. This is not just another slow start, it's a defining moment. A club that once defined dominance now teeters between revival and irrelevance. Every decision, every performance, every defeat feels heavier than the last. And until something changes, one question will continue to haunt Old Trafford. What the hell is going on at Manchester United? If you enjoyed this deep dive into United's story, check out the other documentaries on my channel. We've covered the rise and fall of football's biggest clubs and players. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more, and if you'd like to support the channel even further, consider becoming a member. Every bit of support helps keep these stories alive.